Through NASCAR history, there have been a number of teams that have come and gone. It's happened in every single decade of the sport. It's happened to teams that were memorable, teams that weren't memorable, teams that ran up front and won championships, and teams that were never noticed whatsoever by fans because they never succeeded. And also through the years, there's been a plethora of celebrity NASCAR car owners or sponsors, investors, or people involved. Currently, guys like Michael Jordan and Pitbull are falling and filling into this role. But back in the early to mid-2010s, NASCAR had another seemingly unlikely face enter the sport as investor for a team that really wasn't all that great. It was 50 Cent. But we need to go back to 2011 to talk about this team. In 2011, the number 30 car started to be fielded in the NASCAR Cup Series under the name Inception Motorsports, which was under the Inception Investment Group. With this, the team would attempt the series part-time for 23 races with driver David Stremme, piloting the number 30 Chevrolet. Stremme had went from a Ganassi rookie in 2006 with tons of promise to a directionless starting Parker by this time. But needing a shot to rebuild his career from basically under the dirt, Inception was the last possibility for him. So the team would be an afterthought for what was a legendary 2011 season, with qualifying day being the highlight most weekends for them and sometimes the lowlights. Of 23 attempts, he made 18 of them, and almost every one was a brief showing, with 16 DNFs in 18 starts. And of those 16 DNFs, 15 would have been considered starting parking. And with it, their best race would be that year's Bristol night race, as Stremme would start 31st and come home 32nd, 6 laps off the pace, but still finishing the race. So, for 2012, they elected to make a manufacturer change, switching from Chevy to Toyota. And while being competitive was far off, the team was competing in races longer and making more of them. Stremme managed to qualify for 28 of the 34 attempts, and even knocking off a team best 24th at Indianapolis, the first lead lap finish in the team's history. And in this 2012 campaign, fans noticed that the number 30 went from a blank red car to having sponsors on it. Starting in Richmond, the number 30 was sporting Swan Energy colors. And this was a really big deal because this was where the team was being taken into its next evolution. The Swan Energy Company, with CEO Brandon Davis, would buy the team that week, with their first race of new ownership being Richmond. The team completed 127 of the 400 laps, but more speed and headlines would be on the horizon for 2013. With the inception of the new Gen 6 car, many of the smaller teams had the hope of making up ground on the bigger ones. Steve Meal, formerly of DEI, would come aboard as competition director, while additional funding and ownership from NFL linebacker Bill Romanowski would be added as well. The first race with this rebranded and revamped Swan Racing would be the 2013 Daytona 500, though it would be a scheme and number on the car that would be more solemn for what had recently happened.
And you'll come back to the Hollywood Hotel and talk about your ride in the 26 Toyota, a very important ride representing funds, donations for the Sandy Hook school victims and their families.
Yeah, last week we went up to Newtown, Connecticut and met with the town leaders, met with some of the victims' families, and what a humbling, heartbreaking experience that was. But, you know, the mayor of that small town in Connecticut told me that she saw people smile that she hasn't seen smile in quite some time. And so I know there's a lot of people rallying around this number 26, Newtown, to 80888. You can text that and make a donation. And we're gonna make a lot of people happy just because that car's on the track.
Only 2 months prior, in the town of Newtown, Connecticut, one of the worst school shootings in U.S. history took place. 26 victims lost their lives, with 20 of them being children that were either 6 or 7 years old. To honor them and raise funds for the family, in a one-time number 26 rebranded from the 30, Michael Waltrip would be driving that car in the Daytona 500. On top of that, Waltrip brought aboard former crew chief from DEI, Tony Erie Jr. While not competing for the win, they did come home a respectable 22nd. For the rest of the season, Swan would have that one-car operation with the flagship number 30. This again would have Inception holdover David Stremme as the driver. With Erie Jr. as crew chief and taking on more roles at the team, the duo would make every one of the next 25 races, even leading a lap at Kansas. While still a back-of-the-pack team, they only had 3 DNFs and top 20s at Bristol twice, with finishes of 20th and 17th, and Loudon in 20th, as well as a team best 12th at Talladega, would be highlights of this span. With 10 races left, though, Stremme was sitting 31st in the standings, but even with that being the case, the team was moving on in the last 10 weeks of the season, and in that time bringing on different drivers to basically have tryouts for their car in 2014. The biggest beneficiary of this being Cole Witt, who was chosen to be the driver, or at least one of them, as the team would expand to 2 cars for the 2014 campaign. The other driver would be a former Penske and Kyle Busch Motorsports development driver by the name of Parker Kligerman. This was also coming with a new big name aboard as sponsor. The headset company SMS Audio, a product from Raptor 50 Cent, would be a new associate sponsor on the car and team. Of course, NASCAR fans probably remember him more for his cringy moment in the 2013 Daytona 500's pre-race show.
We're going to try to see if we can talk to her. Of course, 50 Cent here. I got to go talk to Danica Patrick. Good to see you.
But this sponsorship and the initial funding for the team wasn't able to save them from the ever-growing costs of NASCAR competition. By April, the team was reviewing their funds and assets for the future of the program. Anthony Marlowe, who had been a former stakeholder in the team, was now part of the BK Racing team and purchased Swan's number 26 in a merger. The number 30 car would shut down at the same time. After only 8 races, the team owner points and assets would be sold to Extreme Motorsports, who ran the 30 for a week before going to their normal 44 car. And with that, the team was officially dead in NASCAR in the sense that it had no more operation. But the remains of the team would live on with Extreme and BK Racing. BK living on in Cup until the end of 2018, though the former Swan 26 team would have closed up after the 2016 Daytona 500. As for Extreme, they actually still compete sporadically today, just with a different banner, being NY Racing. But so far, the old number 44's biggest legacy has been having its hauler stolen under the Extreme banner, and now NY Racing, while having a few starts here or there with veteran Greg Biffle behind the wheel, hasn't really done all that much. But for me, one of the coolest things about Swan was their online presence towards the end of their tenure. You can still find their old YouTube channel today with behind-the-scenes videos and videos talking about those on the team in a way that honestly feels very familiar to today, just with a early 2010s flair. Well, teams were starting to adopt social media platforms around this time. Swan was one of the more aggressive teams with this and was seemingly ahead of the curve. Had they continued or had been founded later on in the social media era, they probably could have been one of NASCAR's most fleshed out and memorable underdogs. But it didn't happen. And with that, I'm going to pass this all on to you. Do you remember Swan Racing in NASCAR? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more great NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and until next time, have a good one.